Hi there, my name is Heather Patrico, and this is the final project for the Apple Teacher Credentialing Program through Appoquinimink School District. For this project, I was going to have my students work on building a wind-powered car. It was a part of the Henry Ford Design Challenge that I had created as a part of an additional project that I was working on. Through this project, I would be having the students use their iPads in a variety of ways. One of the first things that students will be doing is researching Henry Ford. They'll research his life and accomplishments, and then their job is to create a keynote to share this information from them. About him, I should say. For this presentation, students will also be asked to use their iPad to access a BlendSpace link that I've created that includes information about Henry Ford and his life. This information is going to be presented to them in the keynote that I'm currently presenting as a part of this final project, exactly as it is, but with obviously their link access to them available for this particular project. Just a quick quote from Henry Ford to kind of inspire them and keep them thinking. As I introduce the challenge to them, I will also be using Keynote, like I said, to share the information about the challenge and also to give them an understanding of how Keynote works, because that is going to be a part of their use of their iPads. Again, this is just a keynote that I plan to show them that they're going to use as their guide as they move through the project itself, including the materials, the criteria and constraints, etc. One of the things that I will be doing or that they will be doing actually as a part of this with their iPads, one of the tools that they'll be using is the multitasking tools, where I plan to have them research and record their notes as they're working. They're also going to be, as a part of this challenge, building a wind-powered vehicle once they learn about Henry Ford and his innovative thinking when it comes to assembly lines and things like that. They're going to have different roles during the challenge, and different people in the group will utilize the iPad in different ways. Some of the students will utilize the iPad to take pictures and video of their as they work through the design challenge, to show the different phases of the engineering design process that they go through to build and test their vehicles. They'll also be using their iPads in keeping track of the budget that they will need to make sure that they are meeting the criteria and constraints. They will be using sheets for this to keep track of the expenses, as well as any materials that they use for the design. The steps in the process, again, they're going to be using a Google Drive document to keep track of a lot of the different things. And being that they all have access through Appoquinimink School District to a Google Drive, I thought that this was an easy way for them to collaborate and for me to be able to share a resource with them that they could access, and I could also keep track of throughout the project and throughout the design challenge. Another thing that I plan to have them do as a result of all of the tests is utilize their iPads to create a Flipgrid video that shows their trials and also gives their fellow classmates a chance to review the other trials that the other groups are going through and seeing how they can kind of incorporate knowledge that they learn from watching those Flipgrid videos into their own design. And then as a final project or a part of the project, they're going to think about how to make improvements to their design. So they will be using their iPad obviously throughout all of this, and then once their team has created a vehicle that they think successfully meets the criteria and constraints of the challenge, then they have to, tie back into Henry Ford, think of a way to mass produce this vehicle, whether it be a craftsman approach, specialization, or division of labor. As they test the methods of production and record the results, they're again going to be using the camera, video, and photo function of the iPad to keep track of this. And the final idea behind it, or the final plan, is for them to create an iMovie that shows their trials, shows their successes and failures, and is something that they can present to the class as a way for the class to understand the entire design challenge from their perspective and the engineering design project steps that they went through to get to the end product. I tried to embed some checkpoints for them and ways that they could also kind of evaluate themselves as a part of this project too. And I hope that through this, they'll be able to not only understand the engineering design process, understand a little bit about Henry Ford, but obviously utilize many of the functions that the iPad has available to them, including the camera, the ability to multitask, researching and recording notes at the same time, creating presentations through both KEYNOTE and iMovie, and then using sheets to keep track of their expenses and the materials that they're using. So hopefully all of these things will help them to better understand the tools available to them, like I said, through the iPad, but also to meet the design challenge criteria and constraints, and most importantly, to have fun in their learning. So thank you for all of this and for all that you've done to help us become better teachers and better able to use technology in our classrooms. This was a very valuable experience for me.